At this point, based on what happened last night, do you know anything better about it now than you did last night?
No. They've got people everywhere looking for him. I mean, you can hear the helicopters out there, but they haven't seen anything, and it's crazy. And it's been since 9 o'clock last night, and I really thought that when it got daylight they would find him just in a heartbeat, but they hadn't.
Was there anything about the demeanor of the man that gives you concern?
No, in fact, when he made me get out of the car, I tried to get my children. I just begged him, please let me take them. And he said no, he didn't have time because they were in car seats and it was going to take time for me to get them out of the car seat. And he just told me, he said, but I won't hurt them. And he just took off. But he had a gun, and my big thing is they were screaming, hollering, crying, and I'm just scared that he just lost his patience or something, Yeah, I don't know. All I'm doing is just praying and just keeping my faith that they're going to be okay.
You've never seen this guy before?
No, sir. Never.
And he just came out of the blue?
I was stopped at a red light, and I was looking this way, looking toward the left, and it was just like, a second, he was in my car. He just opened the car door, and I just screamed. I said, what are you doing? He just shut up and drive, and he had a gun, and he was poking it in my side, and told me to drive. And so I drove, and I was trying to ask him one time, why, what do you want? Please just, don't hurt me or the children. He said, and he never said anything. All he ever told me was, shut up or I'll kill you. He said, don't say anything else. And my children were crying, and I was trying to tell them, that it was okay, that, don't worry. And he would, and he let me talk to them. And then we just got maybe 3 or 4 miles down the road, and he told me, he said, I want you to stop. And I said, stop right here? He said, yeah, stop right here. And it was just in the middle of the road. And I stopped, and he told me to get out, and I was in the driver's side, he was in the passenger side, and so I opened the door. I said, I'm going to get my children before I go. He said, no, you can't. He said, I don't have time for that. He just, and sort of pushed me on out the door, helped me get on out the door, and he slammed the door and took off. And I ran to the closest house that I could. And
I'm really sorry.
What would you do if a mother came on television begging for her children to be returned, and you believed every word? Because this story isn't just about a crime. It's about a lie that fooled an entire nation. In October of 1994, a quiet town in South Carolina was suddenly thrown into panic. A young mother named Susan Smith reported something unthinkable. She claimed that while stopped at a red light, a man approached her car, forced his way inside, and drove off with her 2 young sons still strapped in their car seats. 3-year-old Michael and 14-month-old Alex were gone, just like that. According to Susan, she had been carjacked by an unknown man who didn't just take the vehicle. He took her children. Within hours, the story spread. Police were alerted, roadblocks were set up, search teams mobilized. The FBI became involved, and the media picked it up fast, because this wasn't just a crime. This was every parent's worst nightmare, and Susan Smith became the face of it. She appeared on television, emotional, desperate, pleading directly to the person she claimed took her children. Her voice trembled, her eyes filled with tears. She looked straight into the camera and said she just wanted her babies back. And people believed her. The country believed her. Viewers watched her interviews, feeling her pain, sharing her fear, hoping for a miracle. Communities came together. Volunteers searched. Prayers were said across the nation. Everyone wanted those boys to come home. But behind the scenes, investigators were already starting to notice something wasn't right. At first, Susan's story seemed clear. A carjacking. An unknown suspect. A desperate mother left behind. But as detectives began to ask more questions, small details started to shift. Her timeline didn't quite add up. Certain parts of her story felt off. Not enough to immediately accuse her, but enough to raise concern. Still, no one wanted to believe it, because the alternative was almost impossible to accept. Days passed, then more days. The search continued, but there were no solid leads. No confirmed sightings, no suspect, nothing. And yet Susan continued to appear in front of cameras, still crying, still pleading, still asking for her children to be returned. But investigators weren't just watching what she said. They were watching how she said it, her behavior, her emotions, her reactions, and the more they looked, the more questions they had. Then came a turning point. During questioning, pressure began to build. Detectives started confronting inconsistencies, gently at first, then more directly. They needed the truth because something didn't feel right. And eventually, after days of maintaining her story, something changed. Susan Smith broke. She confessed. But what she admitted shocked even the investigators. There was no carjacker, no stranger, no kidnapping. Her children were never taken. She had been with them the entire time. On the night she claimed they were kidnapped, Susan drove her car to a nearby lake. John D. Long Lake. It was dark, quiet, no one around. Inside the car, her 2 young sons sat strapped into their car seats, trusting her, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Susan let the car roll slowly into the water. Think about that for a moment. The vehicle slipping beneath the surface, the silence of the night, the water rising, and inside, 2 children unable to escape, unable to understand. She stood there and watched as the car disappeared beneath the lake. And then she left. She went home and created a story that would fool millions, a story that would send police searching for a man who never existed, a story that made the world feel sympathy for someone hiding a terrible truth. When her confession became public, the reaction was immediate. Shock, anger, disbelief. How could a mother do something like this and then go on television and lie? Not just lie, but cry and beg and convince the world she was a victim. The search that once focused on saving 2 children turned into a recovery effort. Authorities went to the lake, divers entered the water, and eventually they found the car. Inside were the bodies of Michael and Alex, still strapped into their seats, exactly where she had left them. The image haunted everyone involved. It became one of the most disturbing moments in modern true crime history. But the questions didn't stop there, because people wanted to understand why. Why would a mother do this? What could possibly lead to something so unthinkable? During the investigation, details about Susan's life began to surface. She had been going through personal struggles, relationship issues, emotional turmoil. At one point, it was revealed that she had been involved with a man who didn't want children, and some investigators believed that played a role in her actions. But no explanation felt like enough, because no matter the reason, 2 innocent lives were taken by the person who was supposed to protect them the most. The trial that followed was intense, emotional, and heavily covered by the media. Prosecutors argued that this was a deliberate act, a calculated decision, not a moment of panic, not an accident, but a choice to end the lives of her children. The defense, however, painted a different picture. They argued that Susan was mentally unstable, that she was dealing with deep emotional issues, that she wasn't thinking clearly, that something inside her had broken. The courtroom became a place of debate, not just about guilt, but about responsibility. Was she fully aware of what she was doing, or was she so overwhelmed that she lost control? In the end, the jury reached a verdict. Susan Smith was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison